Let's talk about the dark horse this time. Maybe you could mention one or two teams that you think could also make it into the Final Four if they make some improvements, especially to end round number one. They could bring that towards round number two.
Yeah, for sure we have like the teams like FEU, UP, Adamson. Those are the teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack. And I think what's been keeping them there is that they're not necessarily playing to their identity. So we have teams like Adamson, who runs the ball really well and has very little turnovers. Ever since I played against them, they average like less than 10 turnovers a game, which is impressive on the women's side. And I think that they need to come back to those basics because a lot of times those teams who are in the middle of the pack, they let the other teams dictate their pace or they play to the pace of their opponents. So if you're those teams, do what you do well. UP, for example, they're so good at full court pressure.
Yeah.
They're a great trapping team, great defensive team. But sometimes you're seeing them employ that super late in the game. They're not necessarily starting off with that. So I'd like to see kind of those adjustments, like going back to the basics and going back to what you're good at.
Yeah. Welcome back to Starting Lineup. We're still joined by basketball analyst Camille Clarin as we look ahead to the opening matchups of round 2 in UAAP men's basketball. CC, let's talk men's basketball this time, round 2 agad.
Yeah.
This Wednesday, kasabay ng end ng round 1 of the women's. But first things first, Ateneo versus FEU. How we started season 88, which you covered, by the way, that went into overtime. Let's do a recap of what happened in that game. So Ateneo escaping with a win by 3 points over FEU. And that's when we saw the one and dones impress the fans of UAAP for the first time. Kay Manila, Dom Escobar doing the damage in that game. Are they the same guys who will see the same number of points in the second round matchup?
You should, because I think now, they had a super strong start. They kind of fell off towards the last couple of games, but that's the pressure that comes with UAAP, right? You're one and done. There's a lot relying on you, and I think, they got that out of the way. They got those nerves out of the way. So you want to see those numbers pick up again, and especially because they're the reasons why they won a lot of those games at the beginning.
Yeah.
Dep, I did cover that first game, which is why it's interesting, CC, that the matchup you're looking forward most is Kirby Moncopa and Sean Tuano. Interestingly, in the first game, those two were quite absent. Didn't really get much scoring, but why these two as two players to watch out for tomorrow?
Yeah, I think not necessarily the matchup, but them as individuals, because Kirby, he's a very silent player. I don't think his impact is very loud, but it's felt by a lot of the team. I think he's going to have to nullify kind of those big guards on offense and on defense. He produces well. So I think that if FEU, a team who's very reliant on their guards, right? You have Bautista, you have Pasaol, you have two players who are always carrying the load. Like you want to see their big men and their fours kind of get into the mix.
Because Pasaol, he had a triple-double in that game against Ateneo, 24 points.
Yeah, you can't ask him to do so
Exactly.
much more,
Joric
right?
Bautista also scored 24 points. So granted that they will perform and carry the load for FEU. So you're thinking Kirby Moncopa will be that X factor for FEU. But how about the momentum though of FEU winning their final game in round 1, now carrying that against a team, Ateneo, who has lost their last 2 after winning 4 straight?
Yeah, I think the momentum is kind of reversed for them, right? You have Ateneo who's tied at 3rd right now, and if you're going up against a team like FEU, it seems like it's a must-win because you still have other teams to face like UP, NU, LaSalle, UST, right? So you gotta take yourself out of that losing mentality. Round 1 is over. Round 2 is another story. It's another beast because everyone has made their adjustments. So if you're Ateneo, take what you learned from the first round, apply it to the second. Don't have that losing mentality. See what you can do better. And then on the side of FEU, you want to not let your the mentality be, one possession, it's sayang, right? You're in there already. Find a leader who can carry you through those games because you have possessions that are winnable, right? You have games that are coming down to last baskets, right? So it's more like who's gonna step up in a way that carries not only the whole team, right, but carries you into a win.
Yeah. tomorrow we'll see if Jared Bahay, Divine Adili will be back for Ateneo. But we have another big game tomorrow. Number 1 NU Bulldogs will be facing the only team that they've lost to in round number 1. If you're the NU Bulldogs, what becomes the mentality? We're gonna face this team, the only one that beat us in round number 1.
This is your time to put all the accusations aside that you're a first round team. Every season before, they tank in the second round, right? Great start, doing so well, and then all of a sudden, don't make the adjustments and you fall off on the second round. This is your chance. This is the only team that beat you in the first round. So if there's a chance to make it known that you know how to make adjustments and you're a much more mature team, this is the chance to do it.
And you actually led the start of that game against UP. But Jake Figueroa did not have the best outing.
Yeah.
It was limited to single digits in that matchup against
Right, and
UP.
that's not something we've seen from him in the season, right? For sure, you can't expect him to. He averages 15 points right now. He's on the top of the statistical points, but that's your role in NU right now. You are the go-to guy. So for him, this is a chance for him to also show up again, right? You had an off game, but make sure it's just an off game, right? It's just a one-off, because they're going to rely on him heavily throughout the entire second round. And this is a great way to get that momentum, get a good start.
And players you said we must watch out for, key players for tomorrow. I like this. 2 of the toughest, probably, defensive guys in the UAAP, Jolo Manansala and Jacob Baila. How big are these two for a big game like tomorrow?
So those 2 I picked because they are 2 players who you thought would have had more showings in the first round. I think they've been a little bit quiet, and that 4 spot is something that you really need to watch out for, right? You know, Baila and Jolo are great defenders, but what more is there to your game, especially in a matchup that's a must-win for either side, right? I want to see them impact on the offensive side. You know, take the load off of the people who are their go-to scorers, right? Because they've shown in seasons past that they can really impact on the offensive side. So with UP and with NU, they're both very hustle-forward teams. You know, the effort is really there. So those 2 players can really set the tone for that.
Yeah, what about for UP though? Because we know NU coming off that win against Ateneo to end round 1 with only 1 loss. But UP, with that close game against LaSalle, where do they stand right now in terms of, you know, going up against NU again? Because when they faced NU that time, they were kind of building on their wins, but this time they're coming off another loss.
Yeah, it's difficult when you're coming off a loss, especially one that you know it was against. It's like a rematch of the finals, right? But they're not anywhere far from their goal. You know, the goal is still to make it into the playoffs, and they're there.
Yeah.
So if you're UP, do what you do best. It's those empty possessions where nothing's going on, and it's just the pure effort, right, to finish those possessions. I think UP has a lot of guys that they can go to, but in their last matchup against NU, it was the points in the paint that really contributed to their win. So if you're the guards of UP, you guys know you can score. There's no problem about that. But how are you going to get the bigs involved who do so much on the defensive end to stop the other guys on NU, right? You want to also feed them and give them that opportunity on offense.